Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Thank you, Michael Libby. Welcome. It is the 18th day of November in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Tuesday edition of Max World Live here on the Truth Network, 99.3 FM, also on Webcast One Live, live on YouTube, live on Livestream, live on Ustream, live on our app, on Android or Apple at Webcast One. It's webcastonelive.com. So gambling. Are you old enough to remember when we were talking about pari-mutuel racing at a track in Altoona and how that wasn't really gambling and it would provide all these jobs and all this wonderful income for Polk County, and Polk County would own it? No, in the original that wasn't it. It was privately owned. And now we have the most populated state of casinos in the country per capita. We have, Tom, 21?
I think it's counting the two tribal casinos. I think you're looking at 21 now when Jefferson gets up and going.
And Jefferson's the last one that's been approved by the Racing and Gaming Commission.
Yes, they swapped some licenses over on the west side of the state, but yeah, in essence, yes.
Tom Coates is my co-host, as always. Sitting to Tom's right is a friend of mine, Jim Craig. He's a senior journalist. He'll give us his 2 cents worth. And our special guest is the lovely Connie Schmidt. She is a federal lobbyist. And I think we would all say if we had our own way, we'd go back, I don't know what it is, 30 years now, and we wouldn't have any casinos or horse racing or anything in the state of Iowa. That would be our preference.
That would be our preference.
But we got it. So we got to deal with it.
We do.
And you're here to kind of talk about how we're going to do that and how we're going to put some, not limitations, maybe some boundaries. Would that be the right word?
Some boundaries and make it more feasible or more, I can't think of the proper word, but fair for everybody.
More fair for everybody.
More fair.
Because you don't think it's fair.
I think a lot of people make a lot of money. A lot of people put a lot of people out of business. And I think there's too much lobbying going on in Washington and too much money is exchanging hands. And a lot of people are losing.
Now, when I hear the word lobbyist, I think of one thing. I think of someone who works for an association or a particular industry to go to Congress or Senate or the legislature and try to get them to vote their way. What is a federal lobbyist?
What I do, Mac, is I work with grassroots in Iowa. So I will take a particular cause that affects the people of Iowa, whether it's healthcare, a lot of agriculture, or some cause that affects the citizens of our state, or maybe within the Midwest. And I work on behalf of those citizens to help pass laws or don't pass laws on the federal level.
And so what laws are you trying to get passed or are you trying to make sure don't pass?
We'd like to limit the expansion of gambling.
All right, now, it seems like that would be easy with 21 casinos. Why is that? Who's fighting us?
Well, under President Bush, we had limits.
Oh, we did?
Under President Obama, we do not.
What action did he take to lift those limits?
8 days after he was elected president, or after the inauguration, he did an executive order that eliminated the parameters of where the Indians could build their casinos. It's unlimited.
Unlimited parameters
Right,
for casinos.
right.
And that was an executive order.
Yes.
And it's interesting because that's coming in a lot of conversations right now when it comes to immigration.
Kind of if you don't get your own way, you do an executive order.
But to be fair, every president's done them.
Every president has done it. Every other president has held the line and made it more fair, if I can use that word again,
Sure.
to the industry. So it's like, let's just take Prairie Meadows, because we're here in Des Moines County. We have Prairie Meadows here. We don't want to build another casino in Bondurant, Iowa. That puts a lot of people out of job or out of work. We lose a lot of money for our nonprofits, for our schools, the money that we do get from Prairie Meadows. We don't want that to happen. There has to be some kind of parameters and some logic
Now-
in issuing permits.
Tom, you fought hard on that one in Warren County.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it was the same argument. Polk County, Warren County doesn't matter, too close for comfort.
Yeah, understand. I agree with what she's saying in regards to the Indian casinos. We call them Indian, we call them Native American, whatever you want to call them. They're the worst of everything because back in the day, for many years, we did the 1-800-BETS-OFF hotline. We had enormous number of complaints of all sorts of cheating going on the Indian reservations. Shills at the table, short counts on the buckets, people actually being robbed out in the parking lot, and their only recourse is the tribal council, which in essence is the people that robbed you, that's the only recourse you have. Iowa has no regulatory ability. What she is arguing in part is that we get grants and we get tax dollars from the non-tribal casinos. Now, I would argue that from a benefited dollar standpoint, for every benefited dollar we give up 3. It is not the kind of expansion that you want to have. What she is saying, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but we have it. We want to try to keep it viable so it's continued. The alternative, I've debated Wes Ericke over the years, and Wes is the president of the Iowa Gaming Association, represents the non-tribal casinos. What Wes will say is we're like any other business, and what I will say is if it were truly a free market enterprise, then we would have casinos wherever people wanted to put them. And if you do that, we're going to have what she has indicated early she's concerned with. That's free market competition, cutthroat competition, and she's right. In some of the other states, like Atlantic City and some of those, they're shuttering the casinos because they've had too much competition from areas that previously did not have competition. And so you can look at it one of two ways. If you agree with me, and Connie says that she did initially, that gambling is a bad bet for the citizens of the state of Iowa, you can either eventually recriminalize the casinos, take them all out, or, and once you take them all out, the Indians have to go too, because the Indians are following along. They have done it every step of the way. When we allowed the riverboats to come in, we initially allowed only a $5 wager, $200 loss per day cap. They followed that. As soon as we removed the cap, they followed it too. When we allowed only bingo, the Tama had the state's largest bingo. If we would recriminalize it and take it all away, then they would have to follow suit based on the pact. But the compact that we have with our Indian tribes is really no benefit to us. Some of the other states, guys, like New Mexico, have compacts with their tribes where they get a % of the take.
The state does.
Yes, the state does. And what they do is they guarantee no competition to come in, and they have certain understandings. We allow the Indians to do whatever we allow, but we get no oversight, no regulation. People are cheated every day on there, and we get not one penny. So it's a black hole with no redeeming value. The other hand is we go with full market competition, and they will drive themselves out of business because right now we have protective monopoly status, which I could argue is perhaps a very unfair way to approach this. No other business out there has protected monopoly status like this, and no other business in the state of Iowa allows smoking on the premises like the casinos do. We can talk about that too, but you used to be a bar owner, Mac. Your bar now cannot allow indoor smoking.
Right.
Yet if you want to smoke, you go out to Prairie Meadows or any of the other commercial casinos, get by a slot machine, and you can smoke there. Now, you can't go outside and watch the horses run because they're losing $20 million a year having those horses run. So if you want to smoke, you go back inside and stand next to a slot machine, then you can smoke all day long.
Yeah. Tom Coates is my co-host, as always, on Max World Live. Our guest today is Connie Schmidt. She's a federal lobbyist. You know, I like this concept because I always wanted liquor licenses to be limited. I always wanted the city of Des Moines or the city of Clive or Windsor Heights to say, listen, we're only going to have this many liquor licenses.
Okay.
So you're going to be able to control the competition. You're going to be able to manage the amount of potential crime that may come into a certain area because of the number of liquor licenses. Is that kind of what you're saying for casinos?
It's kind of what I'm saying. There's just, like Tom mentioned, it's totally different with the Indians than it is with the other type of casinos that are.
Can't we change that with a snap of a finger?
Well, you're not Obama.
Thank God.
Sorry. I had to say that.
Yeah.
You're right on that, by the way. He did change that. In fact, I'm on the board of the only entity that I know of that opposes gambling across the country, Stop Predatory Gambling. And so my board meetings, they've talked about this. And the potential expansion, I think, of internet gambling and having the Indians involved in that is the biggest threat to all of us. And that's yet to be properly addressed.
Absolutely, totally agree with Tom on that. Because how do you regulate that? How do you keep your grandson off of that one? I mean, it's very, very difficult to regulate that. Your child's going to be in his bedroom at night, particularly. I don't care how old they are. They're going to be on their iPad. They're going to be doing I'm going to make $5 or $100.
Yeah.
It's going to be extremely difficult to regulate internet gambling. Going back to Obama, the Indians paid him $2.5 million last year in lobbying. They gave Mitt Romney $500,000. So it kind of speaks.
$2.5 million to $500,000.
Right.
Kind of tells you.
It kind of tells you where their heart is, where the votes are, how he's going to focus, where he's going to give them preference treatment.
Now, if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to.
Okay.
Tom, you can answer because you and I don't have any political recoil. But it is part of the Indians' plea we're Native Americans and you've picked on us all of our life and we deserve to have this little piece of America? You don't have to answer that.
No. I feel very comfortable.
Okay.
Because I do qualify a little bit. The Indians have the same problem that some of the other casinos are having, like Atlantic City. It is saturated. And right now we're seeing them come back just a little bit, but they're down like 5 casinos. They've lost about 5 casinos that will never recapture their market share.
Yeah, and their jobs and
right.
everything else.
They're gone. The Indians have the same problem. If you have an Indian casino over here in Dubuque and you have one across into Wisconsin, Minnesota, you have that competition. Somebody's going to be out of business. Somebody's going to lose. So they're still fighting each other also on that issue.
So your issue really isn't Iowa law. It's federal law.
It's federal law.
Okay. All right. My guest today is Connie Schmidt. She's a federal lobbyist. Of course, Tom Coates, my co-host today. And also, you haven't heard from Jim, but Jim Craig is in the studio, and he is a longtime journalist moving back to Des Moines, and so we asked him to come in and sit on the show today. Frank is on hold. That doesn't surprise you, does it?
No, that does not. Unless Frank is is gone or unconscious, I expect Frank to call in at one point.
Frank will join us here as we come back for our second segment. Go ahead.
You mentioned how the Indians feel about it. We have a Facebook page. I had one post from an Indian, and his post was, "This is our land." How dare you tell us what to do with our land?
Now, define our land.
Hold on. We're going to
okay.
take a break. We're coming back. Connie Schmidt, Tom Coates, J. Michael McCoy, Luke Archer, Ryan, Jim, we're all here, and we're thankful you're here on the Truth Network. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
"21 minutes after the hour on this gorgeous Tuesday. Max World Live with Tom Coates. Connie Schmidt is our guest. Connie, can you hear okay on those?
I sure can.
Okay, Tom, you can hear?
I'm going to leave them open here.
So you and Jim. All right, let's go to the phones where the voice, Frank, is standing by. Frank, how are you?
Good. I expected you wanted to hear my voice sometime today.
Okay, we've heard it. Thanks, Frank. No, now I'd like your opinion.
Well, listen, Tom, I got to let you know, I've been to Menards 3 times in the last about hour and a half trying to solve a fluorescent bulb issue, so I had to drive like a maniac to get here to call you.
We appreciate it.
I need an amen section.
Amen, Frank.
Listen, gambling is the most regressive tax situation we have in this country because it affects the people who is the least likely to be able to afford it. But here's the rub.
Regressive, yeah.
Here's the rub. City, states, municipalities, et cetera, property tax is such a hot-button issue that nobody dare touch that. So they're forced into 2 basic revenue streams to support government nowadays because of the job situation, the economic situation. It basically comes down to casinos and red light and speeding cameras. That's how they're raising their money. So, they're just going ape wild trying to build a casino on every street corner. But what they don't realize is like you all talking, the saturation, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. If you build a casino in Bondurant, do you think Prairie Meadows is going to lose business?
Yeah, if you build a casino anywhere in central Iowa, Prairie Meadows is going to lose money. Now, is it still called Lakeside? I got lost. It was Lakeside, then it was Terribles. Now
yes,
it's Lakeside
yes,
again?
Yes.
It's Terribles now, I think.
Yeah.
No, I think it's back to Lakeside.
Oh, okay.
I think Terribles went bankrupt.
All right.
They haven't been a negative impact on Prairie Meadows. Or do you think they have? Do you think they're too close to each other? That's, 60 miles apart?
It's far enough outside the feeder market on a casino like we're talking about, a convenience casino, is typically taken to be 40 to 50 miles. They're just enough outside of the feeder market where they're not having a major impact on Prairie Meadows, and they don't have enough of a population close to them to keep them well fed. The one that you mentioned earlier, Mac, in Warren County, was an interesting situation because typically if you didn't, Prairie Meadows would be drastically impacted by a major casino operation in Warren County, especially where they were talking about doing it in northern Warren County. They, by the way, guys, never lifted a finger and never put $1 to try to oppose it. And I had to wonder why, and then it became clear. They wanted it passed. They did not think that Gary Kirk could get a metropolitan casino passed by Racing and Gaming, and that and the bond issue was not operator specific. What they would have done then, about a year or so, they would have come down, knocked Gary out of the way, and Prairie Meadows would have put what they really would like. Some of the people in Prairie Meadows would like a southwest branch, and they would like it far enough away where it's actually eventually going to run Osceola out of business. And to probably put it over by the interstate in Warren County would be a ramp-down style. It would not be a major casino operation, but would be a smaller ramp-down style southwest connector. It didn't go. Obviously, we beat it down 60-40 on the vote. But that, I think, was their plan. They had opportunities to fight it, and they wouldn't fight it.
Tom Coates is my co-host. Connie Schmidt is my guest. She's a federal lobbyist. So what, in a perfect world, what would you like to see happen? What would you and your people like to see happen?
I think we need to be fair. I think we need to be, there needs to be justice. There needs to be equity across the board where we have Prairie Meadows. It's going to be there. It's going to stay there unless you eliminate gambling totally. We can't allow other casinos to come in and take that market share and put them out of business where people lose jobs. Right now, they do give jobs. They're giving back to the economy, and you're right. You look at a different type of person that goes out there, and I have family members that go out there, but it's not going to go away. So we cannot have another casino coming in Bondurant or Norwalk or within a certain number of miles within that casino to take that market share away.
And your method would be in lobbying the legislator to pass laws?
This is federal.
Federal. Okay. So you'd like the federal government to step up and say what?
I would like, well, I can't say what's going to happen within the next 2 years. But Obama's out of control, and I hate to keep going back to a political...
You're not going to get any argument in this room.
He's out of control, and he just keeps passing more executive orders, and when you're getting $2+ million for your campaign over and over and over, you're going to get votes out of that.
Okay, so Connie, I want to make sure I understand your concern. Are you afraid that an Indian tribe is going to be allowed to come down into the metro area without even a vote? Because it's clear at this point that the metro area of Polk County, Des Moines, our metropolitan area, even in the surrounding counties, are not interested in another casino. Are you saying that you think Obama and the administration would go so far as to allow an Indian tribe to come down without a vote of the people and place an Indian casino in our metropolitan area?
I think that can happen, Tom. We're seeing it happen in Wisconsin. The Seminoles coming out of Washington or out of Florida are going into Wisconsin. They're going into other states across our nation, and they don't have the same regulations that we do. They have to have their land in trust, going through the Department of the Interior. That land has to be held in trust. But we are seeing more land given back to the Indians that is held in trust and then eventually they will build a casino on that land.
And not have to go through, again, our state law specifies that the county that is going to reside in has a right to vote. You're saying that would be overridden and that Meskwakis or some other tribe could come down, buy a parcel of land, make it their own, and then put their own casino in there without any vote of the people.
I'm saying that the Department of the Interior has issued more land into trust, which makes it easier for the Indians to get that land, and it has been proven over and over that land is given back to the Indians so they can, in fact, build a casino.
Well, it would be the worst of all worlds. Jim, you mentioned when we were off the air about some of the infrastructure that's necessary when you're talking about large numbers of people traveling to and from a venue, road cost, law enforcement, on and on. And that's one of the things that the Indians do not pay for. It is, again, this is the worst possible thing for the state of Iowa. If they allowed major expansion of Indian casinos in the state of Iowa, that might be the tipping point that would finally force us to look at the whole legalization of gambling in our state. There would be very little benefit, and it would all be a black hole for us if they were to put what little benefit we get from the commercial casinos out, and it would go Indian. I would think at that point we'd recriminalize and get rid of all of it for the state of Iowa.
You look at the Meskwakis, and they do take their money, put it back into their community, because there is a lot of poverty in that area.
Well, selectively, I think they do.
They do, but you're right. But they do help their own people. If you bring the Seminoles from Florida into Iowa, the biggest percent of that money is going back to Florida. It's not going to stay in the
that's even
state.
worse. But you're talking about cost shifting. Yeah, maybe the Meskwakis, but understand that the casinos. There's about 5% of our population, guys, that are problem or pathological gamblers. That's the 5% that provides about half of the casino's revenue. So you're talking about cost shifting. Frank mentioned a regressive tax. Well, certainly the casinos are regressive to that point. The lottery is very regressive tax. But what you're doing, you're talking about cost shifting because Meskwakis or any of the others are counting on the infrastructure the rest of us are paying for and getting nothing back for it. And at least the commercial casinos are paying some taxes, property taxes, state income. Now, I would argue that the level that they've negotiated for the state income tax is not enough. They were supposed to cap out at well into the 30, about 36%, and they sued because they said that the riverboats were only going to pay 20%. Well, they decided to up the riverboats to 22 and the land base to pay 24. That is not nearly enough to cover their own costs, but it's certainly a lot better than the Indians. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old for a second, Connie. Who makes the money that Prairie Meadows makes? Who gets that? I mean, is it charities and non-for-profits? Because there's no board of directors, are there?
There is a board of directors.
And are they paid?
It depends on how you define paid.
Free steak on Friday?
Some of it goes there. I really rather not get into how Prairie Meadows is functioning.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I respect that.
You're a 6-year-old and you're my son, even though you're probably a lot younger than. Well, yeah, you're younger than I am. You're my son, and I'm telling you the evils of gambling, and what am I going to do to keep you safe and away from this?
Yeah.
Even though it's going to be online.
Yeah.
So first of all, it comes back and it starts in the home. We're going to limit your iPad. You're going to limit your TV. We're going to limit, and we're going to teach you at home what's right and wrong.
Yeah, it's really a moral issue.
It's very much a moral issue. You know, I can take my $20. I bet that in the time that Prairie Meadows has been there, I may have been out there 2 or 3 times. The horse races, probably more than throwing a quarter in a slot machine. It is a moral issue. I don't like the environment. Maybe other people do, but to me, it's not something that I want to spend my time in.
Well, and the other thing, and this is something I know about because we all remember the Tom. What were the machines called that I put money into?
Oh, you did you do
Touch
the touch play where
Yeah.
where Dr. Ed Stanek was going to put eventually 20,000 play machines, video slot machines throughout our state before we rose up and said no?
Yeah, and you and I were on opposite ends of that.
Well, I didn't even know you were on the opposite end. I don't think we'd had discussions about that.
Well-
That was such an outrageous, egregious thing that even the people that were common people walked into their grocery stores and the quick shops and restaurants and bars, and they'd see mini casinos sitting there right there where they're buying their food or their groceries, their gas, and they said, this is unacceptable, and they threw them out.
But Tom, we have that with the lottery. You can go in, you buy a lottery ticket.
Oh, well, now don't get me started on the lottery, because as regressive a tax the casinos are, the lottery is worse. They did a study years ago, Connie, that showed if you made less than $20,000 a year, you were going to spend almost $600 a year buying lottery tickets. If you made over $100,000, you spent less than $100 a year buying lottery tickets. It's the most regressive tax known to man.
Jim, 60 seconds. What's your thought on this?
Well, I think part of what we get into is to revisit why these things were made illegal in the first place.
Good point.
Those are not social ills that have gone away. We've simply put them in the closet. Now we want to bring them back out and give them a seat in the living room. We talked briefly about the executive orders, and we tend to have forgotten why we have executive orders in the first place, and that's not to usurp the power of Congress. It was to keep the federal government functioning when Congress was not in session, back in a day when it took 30, 40 days or even 3 or 4 months to bring Congress back together. We don't have that situation. We can actually convene Congress if we wanted to through Skype, and nobody has to go anywhere. The reasons for some of these laws don't exist today, but we're not going back and asking, why can't we get rid of them?
Jim Craig, a senior journalist here in the state of Iowa, joins us. Connie Schmidt is my guest. She's a federal lobbyist. Of course, Tom Coates. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. When we come back, one of my favorite topics. It's called the slippery slope and what casinos have done to us over the 30 years here in Iowa. That's next on the Truth Network.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fix them problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Before the top of the hour, 22 minutes, 4 o'clock, the Truth Network, Salem updates, our regular news, and then at 3 minutes after, Michael Mudloff and Chris Roloff with True Blue. My co-host today, of course, Tom Coates on Max World Live. Special guest Jim Craig, who is a lifetime journalist originating here in the state of Iowa. And my special guest today is Connie Schmidt. She's a federal lobbyist. We're talking about gambling. We're talking about casino populations. We're talking about boundaries and limitations. And, you know, I suppose I grew up a conservative because my parents were Republicans. But we were not a political household. The only thing I remember about politics in my house is watching the election results. You know, I remember as a small child, my dad took me down to our local park where John F. Kennedy was, campaigning. But I, for some reason, grew up to be a Republican, and I'm proud to be that. But sometimes I think we're not the smartest kids on the block. And I'll tell you why. For years and years and years, I have been screaming about the slippery slope. And we seem to allow the liberals to do little things that we know down the line is going to grow into a big thing. And I think back to how many years ago it was, to parimutuel racing. Now, I was from Nebraska, so I was used to Exarban. And I knew it didn't work. It never worked. Exarban never worked, even when it was the highlight. What did Exarban grow into? Well, it grew into Prairie Meadows. And then we have riverboats on the Missouri River. And now we don't even have riverboats. Now we have regular casinos.
Well, they tie them back to the land because it's too expensive. That was why the lower tax rate was given to the riverboats. They had sailing requirements, and they had to get out and sail. Well, now nobody's got sailing requirements. They all tie them to land, and they're trying to get off the water as soon as they can. Prairie Meadows was initially, you're right, put as a horse track, but even as they did it in the late 80s, they knew, they're looking around the country, and they look at the horse and the dog tracks, they knew it was never going to be viable. Yet they put it in, and that's why some of the Polk County supervisors were taken out, because they knew that chicanery had been afoot. They put that in. Within 2 years, it was bankrupt. And then they ran a campaign. They said, do you want to pay this multi-million-dollar boondoggle? Or do you want slot machines out here? That was the idea when Knapp and the rest of them took that piece of land and turned into a horse track in the first place. It was based on deception. We're talking about Obama now and Gruber and the Obamacare and the deception that was perpetrated on the American people. Well, Prairie Meadows came into being because of the deception of those people.
All right, but anybody alive today over the age of 12 who witnessed Obamacare knows in 2014 that it was a scam, that we were lied to. Even when they went before the Supreme Court, they said, no, it's really not that. It's a tax. We know it's a tax. You've got Gruber, who has come out and said it was all about to fool America. And Obama comes out and says, I don't even know who this Gruber guy is. Then they go back to 2006 and show footage of him praising this Gruber guy.
Right.
See, this is what I'm talking about, Connie, that as a conservative, we got stupid written on our foreheads. Why would we ever allow the low information voter to say, health care for everybody? It cost us, what'd you say today, $700 billion? No, that was Doug, the other guy. $700 billion to insure 3% of the population, or whatever it was? It was really about the government taking over our health care. And eventually,
that's the bottom line. That's the agenda.
Yeah, and bottom line, I believe, you can quote me or not quote me, this is about death panels. This is about you and I getting to a certain age and saying, they're not useful anymore. Why would I want to put any money into Mac or Connie or Tom or anybody? They're not useful. They're not productive. They're taking from the system rather than adding to the system. Jim?
Well, there's a wonderful parallel between gambling and Obamacare. and that is both of them are. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Both of them create situations where either you fundamentally change an industry, healthcare, for instance, Obamacare. You can't spend our way out of it. You can't socialize our way out of it. So the only thing we can do is take the next logical step, which is some form of socialized medicine, and we can't take a step back from that brink. Gambling is very similar. Once, my dad used to tell me that if you lay down with a hound dog, you're going to get fleas, and this is one where no matter how much you scratch, you're not going to get rid of the fleas.
But see, that's the thing I don't understand. Why don't we just put it on a ballot and vote whether we want gambling to continue after 12 months from the date of the election?
Because you can't, excuse me, Mac, you can't get people to vote.
Okay, you can't. In other
I
words,
just came from North Carolina. With people that are under the age of 35. 90% of them are Republicans and did not vote.
why?
They didn't think they were, they didn't know the issues well enough, or they didn't know the people well enough. And I'm going, well, it's all over the news. Pick up a newspaper, listen to what's on television.
Yeah.
They will not do that. They're too busy with going here and going there and socializing and having parties and thinking about, and in fairness, they are thinking about their families and their jobs. But they don't realize that the most important thing in their lives is their country and their future. And
You know,
they're not paying attention.
I got to vote in the 1968 election, and I have to admit I voted for Nixon. And I couldn't wait to vote. As I grew up in a household with black and white TV, watching Nixon and Kennedy, and then watching JFK, and then LBJ, and then comes along Nixon. I couldn't wait to get in that booth and pull that lever. And today, it's an apathy that you can't believe. But they count on
So
that
you're
apathy.
actually older than I am then, Mac.
I don't know, are you?
You voted in the 68 election? You've always pretended you're younger than I am.
I
so
voted.
72 was the first time I got a chance to vote. You're actually older than I. The new revelation has come out. The deception has been pulled back, and it's true that you're actually older than I am.
Okay, Thomas, if that makes you happy, we can make me older. I'm the oldest person in the room. Let's just say that. But where was I going with this before you threw me
You
off?
didn't really vote in the 68 election.
Okay, I don't know. Now I don't remember.
You wanted to pull that lever. You were so
You may
excited
remember
about
it,
pulling
but you
that
didn't
lever.
vote in it.
It is so pathetic to me that people complain, and then you ask if they vote, they say, well, no, it doesn't do any good. Well, why do you complain then? And do you still subscribe to the Register?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I do too. Tom does too.
Yeah.
I read that 2 cents worth. And these are a bunch of liberal losers whining because they've lost. Have you read some of this?
Yeah, and I don't know why they get printed.
Because it's the Locust Street
Yeah,
Liar.
I understand that, but I still don't know why they get printed.
I mean, there was a bunch today where they were printing all this stuff about these sore losers from Joni Ernst and Bruce Bray. Why do they print that stuff?
Rekha Basu.
Oh yeah, how about that? How about that with? Did you see the article today?
I saw my buddy Stu Bassman.
That's right.
Yeah, my
Did you
cigar
happen to
buddy.
read that today?
I did
Stu
not,
Bassman
but I
got
know
his
Stu
letter
well.
today.
I know him.
It was hilarious. He called out Rekha Basu for
He's great.
knocking Kent Sorensen and his votes on marijuana, and then, of course, he's been found to have it in his system now. But then Stu goes back and says, no, wait a minute. What about the Branstad Hatch thing? And what was his point about that?
Well, I mean, how can you go back to this guy that still just got his butt kicked thoroughly and ask him like he's an objective expert source on Kent Sorensen?
Yeah.
And he was saying that part of her objective wasn't just sour grapes, but it actually was to stump for which she wants, the legalization of marijuana that we were talking about a little bit ago, Connie. And Stu was right, although they took exception to that. They said that wasn't the purpose of her, but it was underlying in that she said it's hypocrisy. And don't get me started on Kent Sorensen. He's not my favorite guy, and I've been opposed to him back when he was in office. But it was hypocrisy of him to say he wanted tougher restrictions on drug laws, the same point that he was using. Yeah, that's a level of hypocrisy, but the hypocrisy also is with the left, and Stu was calling him on that, I think.
Yeah, Stu Bassman, always one of the few people I enjoy reading, and luckily they still do print his letters.
Occasionally. He's hitting about 1 out of 3, I think, that they print.
Yeah, they don't print them all. But the liberal agenda and the slippery slope, we've been watching it over and over and over. You know, one social issue, gay marriage, which I don't want to talk about whether we want it or not, but it started out, I just want to visit my partner in the hospital. I just want to have the legal right as a family member to visit. Okay. Well, then we just want to be able to share in the estate. And every time lawyers came up with, okay, we can get that done for you. And now it's getting rid of God in society. That's what it's come down to. We'll finish this conversation with Connie Schmidt and the rest of us after this live on the Truth Network.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey. Psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you. Hello, Ryan. Are you there, Ryan? Hello. 10 minutes for the top of the hour. Tom, you're right. It was 78. It was 1978.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And I voted for, 76.
Yeah.
And that would have been for...
That would have been the famous Jimmy Carter-Gerald Ford race.
So that's where I got Nixon involved. Because Ford was his vice president.
That was...
Because I was born in 59. See, you keep trying to make me older than you.
I keep trying.
And I for the first time in 11 years, I slipped up by a decade. A simple... Can I imitate Hillary for just a second? What difference does it make?
I thought I had you, Mac.
A political career is born.
That's right. There you go. Connie, we're never going to get rid of casinos. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say.
Okay. What will be the turnaround that makes them finally begin to close and slow down? I mean, we saw it in Jersey, but that was
You don't want to go there. You don't want that to happen.
Okay, because that was bad for the economy.
Absolutely, and it's bad for jobs. It's bad for everybody. You need.
But wasn't that weather related? Wasn't that really about that pier being blown away by Sandy, and then we had a bad fire or not? I don't know.
And maybe impartial, Mac impartial, but when you have everybody wants money. Everybody thinks that money's going to make them happy, and if I can have a casino and I can go out there and I can make $1,000, I think we're so materialistic. I think they're just here to stay, and people are going to go unless you put limits on it.
And that's what you're trying to get done.
Yes.
Federal limits.
Yes.
Here's the slippery slope that I recognize. I owned a little honky-tonk on Merle Hay Road called Guitars and Cadillacs. Mm-hmm. And the day Prairie met, and we had a wonderful happy hour. We'd open at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and a lot of the old timers would come in and have a couple beers, and we'd serve them tacos or whatever we did, and they'd do some early dancing, and we were semi-full at 4, 4:30 in the afternoon. The day Prairie Meadows opened, happy hour ended. Because now they all go out there, drink that cheap free liquor, and put their money into those machines, and then they smoke. Second thing that happened, then they opened the hotel. You talk to the people, the hospitality people at Hilton, at Marriott, at Hotel Fort Des Moines, at Savory. They will tell you that when that hotel opened, their business dropped.
Right.
Not so much because of the rooms, but because of the conference center.
Right.
Now you talk to the hotels about, and you can look it up. It's public knowledge. Every week there's a new conference out at Prairie Meadows. That business would have been in downtown Des Moines or West Des Moines at one of our facilities. And yet, for some reason, there is a sense in a portion of the public that it's okay to put private business out of business if businesses owned by the government are okay. And isn't that kind of the basic difference between a conservative and a liberal? We want the government to be huge and provide everything we want, including entertainment, for heaven's sakes. Now health care, savings accounts for Social Security. You want to put limits so they can't expand and expand. What can we do to get rid of them? So the slippery slope works in our benefit. And in 25 years, my grandson Luke, who will be 40 years old, will only have 4 choices for casinos, and that's good enough for him.
I think the bottom line is people want a free ride. I'm going to take a gamble. I'm going to take a chance. I can go out there and spend my money and take a chance that I'm going to get rich. That's why they buy lottery tickets. That's why they do online betting, if they can, in some states. I think we're all looking for that. It's instilled in us when we're little. You see it on TV. I can go on to another topic.
No, you're right. We're entitled.
We're entitled. All of us are entitled, but some of us want to work for that entitlement.
And, you know, it's interesting because if you talk to somebody that lives in an Eastern culture, they will tell you that every single American thinks they're entitled. We sit back and we say, no, the Democrats think they're entitled. Republicans, we're willing to work our way through it. But you ask someone from an Eastern culture, they'll tell you every single person in America thinks they're entitled.
We are so materialistic in Iowa. We just got back in the States. We just got back from Italy. You have such little, the bathrooms, the food, the time is so much different. It's slower. We are fast-paced, get rich, move on to the next thing. We needed a whole new life change.
And how are we going to get that?
It starts at home, and until I think parents and our churches and our leadership says, okay, let's slow down a little bit. Let's take a look at what's happening to our country.
I'll make it simpler. Let's recognize our Creator as the most important thing in our lives.
That is absolutely true.
You know, I realized something a few years ago, and my wife now appreciates this. She didn't at the time. I said, honey, you know what a bad thing in our marriage is? What? I idolize you. Oh, well, you idolize me. That's pretty cool. I like that. I said, no, honey, the point is I put you before me sometimes. Sometimes I put you before God. I know what's right and wrong, and I know what he'd like me to do, but because you want this, I'm going to do that. Now, my wife is an incredibly moral woman. You know, she's far better than I.
I can say amen to that.
Yeah. But we choose idols. I don't think we realize the idols that we've chosen in this country. And it isn't just the God of rain or the God of wind or the God of love. It's cars, diamond rings, houses, cell phones, cable, how many computers? It's just incredible.
The malls are packed on Sunday.
Right. The malls should be closed on Sunday. Yeah. Go ahead, Jim. Last word.
Last word, the Old West. We talk about what tamed the West. Was it the peacemaker? Was it the Winchester? No. The Old West was tamed by school teachers and preachers. They demanded change. They got change, and they didn't have to use a gun to get it.
And now school teachers are controlled by the government, and the government's coming after the last free speech in this world, and that's American pastors. We talked before we got into that break. That's really the LGBT movement. It's not about love or marriage. It's about eliminating God from our society.
The rebellion, that's exactly right. That's the core of it.
That really is it. Because if they can stop me from standing before a group of people who have voluntarily decided to congregate there, and I read from the Word of God, and they tell me that's hate speech, that's the worst it can get on this earth. Agreed?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely
we're
true.
ready.
We'll agree on that.
We're ready for the second coming at that time.
Jesus comes soon. Connie, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate
man.
it. Tell
Appreciate
Leslie
it.
hi for me. She's got a great gal.
She is. I love her.
I've loved her for so long. And what a great husband. Guy who
She
fights
does.
for this country. He's still deployed, isn't he?
No, he's back home. He's just there. It's a great family. It's
Yeah,
a
it
loving
really
family.
is.
I love them to death.
Yeah, they're wonderful people. Tom, thanks for being here. Jim, thanks for sitting in. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Ryan, thanks for putting up with our political talk. I know you're a low information voter and you love Obama and you think casinos are... No, that's not Ryan. That's not Ryan at all. He's more conservative than all of us put together. All right, Right Places will be here tomorrow. I'll see you back on Friday. And until we see each other again tonight, maybe turn off the TV. Maybe go someplace in the house and search deep in your soul for somebody that you've hurt, or maybe somebody that's hurt you. And draw from the Word and ask for forgiveness and offer forgiveness and eliminate some of that resentment and poison in your mind. And then turn to your Creator and simply say, thank you. See you tomorrow.